Topic of this video is behavioral skills teaching. Behavioral skills teaching is a research-based method developed by behavior analysts to teach a skill systematically. It's evidence-based. It allows for easy evaluation of students' progress. And it can also be used to help a student develop self-management skills. Behavioral skills teaching consists of breaking a skill down into its component steps. We call this a task analysis. It should be used for skills that can be practiced in a role play or other situation in which the instructor sets up. It requires a student to be able to follow verbal instructions, and the student should also have the ability to imitate or copy the behavior of a model. So they should be able to copy behaviors that are demonstrated to them. It can also be used in an individual one-on-one format, which is the way it's most commonly used, but it can also be used in a group format. Again, what is a task analysis? Breaking a skill down into its sub-steps. We're going to look at a couple of examples quickly. This is a task analysis for asking a supervisor a question. So many people with unique learning needs may have difficulty making the discrimination or identifying when it's okay to ask their boss or supervisor a question. So this is the sequence of steps for doing that. Another skill that some students may have difficulty with is accepting criticism. So this is a task analysis that could be used to help a student that has difficulty accepting criticism from a boss, from a supervisor, from a peer. There are 5 steps to behavioral skills teaching. Step 1 is to identify the skill to teach. And again, to break it down into the task analysis, develop initial instructions to provide to the student. You then model or demonstrate each step of the task analysis. You provide feedback. And it's important that the ratio of positive feedback is greater than corrective feedback. And then you have the student repeatedly practice the skill until they reach fluency. So that by fluency, we mean that they can easily and smoothly display the behavior which has been task analyzed. A little bit more on instructions. So you should explain or describe all steps to be performed for the targeted skill. You should provide the student with a rationale or rationales for why learning the skill is important. Your instructions can either be verbally, you can also provide instructions in writing, or you can use a combination of verbal and written instruction. And you want to make sure that the words you use matches the learning style and level of the student. Modeling consists of showing the learner how to complete the skill, and modeling can be done in various formats. So oftentimes in behavioral skills teaching, we model live. So the one-on-one role play situation, instructor demonstrates each step of the task analysis and the student watches. But you can also develop a video which the student watches prior to the teaching session. And the video could be somebody else demonstrating the steps of the task analysis, or it could be the student in the video themselves demonstrating the steps. What's the advantage of using a video? It can oftentimes be useful if you want to assign the students homework or practice outside of the instructional setting. And it can also be used to help them learn how to self-monitor, self-track if they're successfully displaying the targeted skill. Feedback is the next step of behavioral skills teaching. So make sure you correct errors as they happen. Initially use verbal correction. So tell the student what they've done wrong and how they could correct their behavior. If verbal instructions do not work, then you should again model the skill, the particular step of the task analysis. And again, you want to provide praise for practicing and participating in the activity. Data collection. So it's important to evaluate whether or not a student has made progress. And the best way to do this oftentimes is using a data collection sheet. And in the data collection sheet, I'm going to show you an example here. It's every step of your task analysis. You score whether or not it was done correctly. So a plus if the student did it independently and 100% correctly. And then you make notes. And it would be particularly important to know any patterns and errors on the student part that you observe to help with future instructional sessions. And then the next step of behavioral skills teaching is repeated skill practice to provide the student with the opportunity of practice. If possible, have the student practice the skill in a setting in which they may actually use that skill. Collect data on your data sheet to help you identify error patterns. If a student is having difficulty with a particular step, say there's a 10-step task analysis and they're having problems on step 5, it is okay to have them practice step 5 several times within the format of the role play so they get repeated practice and have the opportunity to build fluency. Oftentimes, a student might acquire the skill within the role play situation, but they may have difficulty applying it throughout their life. So they may have difficulty applying it in a different place with a different person, at a different time of day. So to promote generalization or the ability to display the skill throughout the student's day, you can incorporate real life situations into your teaching. You can provide the students with homework or instructions to practice the skill. So can you go home and practice the skill with your parent? Can you go home and practice the skill with a roommate or a partner? It's important to try to arrange for if the student successfully displays the skill outside of the role play situation, that there's people acknowledge that there's an opportunity for that to be acknowledged or reinforced. That wraps up our video on behavioral skills teaching. And as an instructor, if you find any of these steps difficult to perform, it oftentimes is useful to get consultation from someone with experience using behavioral skills teaching.